spinning.
Nolan, what do you want to grow this year? What are you most excited to grow?
Cat. Oh, I want.
No, be serious. What do you get?
Oh, a cat tree.
Right there.
I want a chocolate tree. Yes, chocolate tree.
Purple carrots.
Yeah, go do it.
You have purple carrot? Hi there, welcome to the Hesington Homesteader. It is garden planning time. So we had Jenna and Ben come over and kind of help us walk through some stuff that maybe we haven't or would not have thought of. So we thought we'd just have a conversation about what next. Yeah, this is their first like real garden. It's our real garden, first real garden. We've done this.
So one thing that we learned is just keeping a journal with your garden stuff. You know, it's a good idea just to jot down maybe where you planted stuff, maybe a little bit about the weather, so that you can kind of look back and see if something went right, then you can try to figure out why it went right, and likewise if it went wrong. So my suggestion, find a little book. I actually found this one at Tractor Supply. They were just on clearance. And it's got little vegetables on it.
So one of the biggest things, especially I think because of where we live in a colder climate, it's really important to not start the seeds too soon. So I have learned my lesson in this year after year. I seem to get a little bit closer to when that date needs to happen. But Ohio always throws us a little bit for a loop, and so I'm on several of the Facebook pages for like Ohio gardeners and things, and it constantly is an issue come spring when it's supposed to be our last frost date and it really hasn't been. So people end up with a lot of plants that are indoors that end up leggy, and they just are weak, and they're getting bigger than what their pots can handle. So you end up transplanting them, but really they almost get to the point where they need to be transplanted again, which is time consuming, and you're just waiting for the weather to turn. So I'm trying to hold myself back so that I can just plant a little bit later in the season. Yeah. I don't want to jump the gun and do it when the Farmer's Almanac actually tells us to do it, because it hasn't worked out for the past 3 years. So I'm gonna give it a couple weeks past the date of when we're supposed to start. So to kind of show you, this is the Farmer's Almanac website, and within here you can just type in your zip code, and it will tell you when the last frost date is supposed to be for your area. So ours is scheduled for April 26th. Now when you go to actually start the seeds, you want to backtrack from that date for when you are going to do your seed starting. But I am going to actually, instead of assuming that it's actually April 26th, I'm going to probably say mine's going to be more like the middle of May to be safe. Then if you go over, this is Johnny Select Seeds. On their website, you can actually type in here your date.
Your last frost date.
Yeah, your last frost date. So if I put in here like May 13th, you're going to enter that. It will give you a breakdown on here of every single plant and the date where you should actually be sowing your seeds indoors. So it kind of breaks that all down for you so that you don't have to do the math and try to say, oh, this one's supposed to be planted 4 weeks before the last frost. It'll walk you through and say, okay, beets need to be planted. That one, for instance, is March 18th to April 1st. That's when you need to be starting those seeds. So Chuck and I have some plans. We've been thinking this through, and we have a list. So tell us what we have on our list.
Well, so my approach to this was, in some of these garden books and YouTube videos that talked about if you're going to have like a beginner's garden, they said don't overestimate and like have this huge garden because you'll go to the store and you'll see all the seed packets and you'll grab all the stuff. And
You
then it's
remember
like-
how big our first garden was? We did it Luke Type's fashion. Our dad he did everything and go big or go home.
Go big or go home.
And that was our first garden. Oh my gosh, it had to have, I don't even know. Felt like
That
it was a football field.
Oh.
That was over at the old house, right?
Yeah.
I do remember.
It was so big.
So I think it was this book here. So I had a couple books that I ended up buying that I liked. This one is The Vegetable Gardener's Bible by Edward Smith, and then Nikki Jabbour, I think, is called Year-Round Vegetable Gardening. Maybe I'll get to this one. I'm not worried about year-round vegetable gardening yet, but in Ohio that would be handy. But right now, this guy. So he had talked about like how he kind of suggests. So it was like, you know, number one, and this might seem obvious, but you just might miss over it. But like, grow vegetables that you're actually going to eat. Like grow stuff. Like if your kids aren't going to like okra or kohlrabi or kumquats or something weird, like don't.
Is that a thing?
You should just
No,
pick
it's-
all the things that have
I thought
really
you
good
knew that.
Yeah. So grow stuff that you'll eat, and grow stuff that like either you can't buy it or you'll save money growing it.
Yeah.
So I kind of picked stuff.
Yes,
So
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
so I picked sugar snap peas because every time we go to the store, they're really expensive, and the boys
They are.
love them. Your kids love them. So I thought if we could do sugar snap peas, green beans, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, like grape tomatoes, slicing tomatoes like for BLTs and stuff. Bell peppers, those are always expensive, especially organic. And then little cucumbers. I don't know if there's like the
They
kind
do.
that you
My
could
kids
eat.
love those little.
Oh yeah.
We buy them at Costco. They come in like a little bag, but they love the little tiny cucumbers.
Me too.
And I'd like to try to make
Yeah.
pickles. So I don't know if it's the same
Oh.
cucumber for that or we need something different, but that's something I always wanted to do is make pickles. And then summer squash. And I thought if I just keep it, we can add to it. That was my list to like try to not go.
So these are your layouts for your beds.
Yeah.
So you have 4 beds you're going to be putting these in.
Yeah, so I did start that this summer because I figured next spring we'd talked about
Yeah.
us putting the
Oh,
garden.
is that your the lasagna gardening video we did?
Yep,
Okay.
you can check that out. So it's kind of modified. I just kind of pulled from different ideas. This guy here, Edward Smith, his thing is he uses wide rows and they're deep soil. So his is kind of modified because it's a raised bed, but he doesn't have you go to the expense of building actual raised beds. He just mounds them.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, how could we do that? Obviously, topsoil is not cheap. And I'm like, well, what else could I do to kind of mound stuff up? And so I came across some YouTube videos talking about lasagna gardening, which is like
Yep.
just making rows of like compost. So I've started to do that. And then the way he talks is like every year as you add more compost and mulch and stuff onto your rows, it'll just keep getting a little bit higher and higher as it breaks down. And so, yeah, so that's what I've got 4 rows that are out there. So I kind of like just, is there a way, like I don't want to just plant them and all of a sudden I've got an
Everything
overwhelming-
all at
yeah,
the same
everything.
time.
Is there a way to like spread it out when I plant?
So what I do is I use that chart, and that's the first time that I'll start those seeds, but I'm not going to plant all of the starts that I need for the year. So I'm going to plant maybe 3 plants, get the seeds started, or a few of them, and then in another few days or a week, I'm gonna plant some more. So you're just like spreading that out so that they're staggered a little bit. And then I also prefer to grow, like there's 2 different kinds of beans. You have pole beans and you have bush beans. One of them is going to produce over and over again. And so I prefer growing that way because then you know, like once I pick them, more of them are going to come on and grow. And so it's just kind of this long continual season.
But it's basically you plant a little bit, wait a little bit, plant a little bit, wait a little bit. So then that way it's not all going to be harvested all at the same time.
Apparently figured this out, but for all of you, you don't want to plant the same plant in the same place year after year. So they need to actually move to a different location in your garden. So you don't want to just say like, this is where my tomatoes are always going to go and this is where my peas are always going to go. You want to rotate those through so that the soil becomes richer. So I see that you have yours.
I watched a video that Jess did on like for beginners, and not the technical part of it, but I thought she did a really good job. She kind of put my mind at ease about just like your attitude going into it. She's like, don't worry about failing.
Yeah.
That's where you learn.
Just do it.
Everybody's going to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. And she's like, the harvest part of the garden is what everybody gets excited about. But she's like, picking the fruit or getting the vegetables is such like a small amount of the time that goes into it. So she's like, have a broader perspective, and she's like, enjoy all the parts of it. Mm-hmm. Don't just get excited and then just focus everything on the harvest. She's like, enjoy planting, enjoy weeding, enjoy mulching, watering, watching stuff at the whole stage. And she's like,
I like,
have fun.
in the beginning, it was not something that I did necessarily enjoy. Now, when I go into the garden, it's like my happy place because my kids are out playing and it's quiet.
Take you guys outside and you can actually see our site and what we've done.
In the snow.
We'll take you in the snow.
So thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Interesting.
We're still learning, so I don't know how much help it was. But
Together,
We are.
that's why we got into this. So
Yep.
we're starting out.
We are.
I'm hesitant. All right, so I thought I'd take you outside and kind of show you our garden setup. It's the end of January, and it is cold and damp and kind of ugly out here, to be honest with you. But this is the reality of starting a spring garden, we're finding out. So this is the area that we're going to do it in. This is, behind me is the lasagna garden. So this is going to be our 4 rows. These are about 3 feet by, I think these are 3 by 12 or 3 by 15, I don't remember now. But these 4 rows are going to be our start of our small garden. Our house, this area here, faces south, so I'm going to have plenty of light coming in, nice sunlight all day. The only thing that is somewhat tall to the south is going to be this grape arbor back here, but that does not start getting filled out until later in spring. The leaves don't come out, so early on light will come through. But in the summertime, the sun is high enough in the sky. I watched this during last summer and fall. The shadow does not come out far enough, and it doesn't do any, it's really not enough of a shadow off this grape arbor. It's going to impact the plants over here at all. Beyond the grape arbor is a raised bed for strawberries. And then beyond that, I've got 4 blueberry bushes. And then back over in this area here, the small bed is asparagus. And beyond that was here before we moved in. And it's kind of a raised bed area, but it's very poor quality soil that was brought in. And so we're not sure what we're going to do with that. But what we're thinking that this year, that might be a good spot just to do like squash or melons, since those take up a lot of space. But these 4 beds here are going to be the 4 beds that we'll rotate through. And this is that lasagna method. So I just went right over the grass and we smothered it with layers of wood chips and grass clippings and straw and grass clippings and old leaves. And I just kind of built those layers up with the brown, which is carbon, and green, which is nitrogen. And I just did that, and I'm going to come through sometime here in the next couple weeks, and I'm going to gently kind of turn this stuff, turn it over a little bit to help it break down. And then when it comes time to plant, this is not going to be all broken down. So we're going to go over top of this with like compost or some topsoil that we'll probably either get partially from what we have available here, or we might end up getting a truckload of that brought in and mounding that up. So even though I don't have sides on this, these really will be slightly raised beds, and then every year as we add more compost and build this up, these will eventually get, you know, probably 10, 12, 14 inches mounded up. But I left grass in between so I can just mow. This was our yard area, so I can just mow around this so I don't have to worry about weeds. And these are comfortable enough that we can easily lean in or come down here and reach halfway across at a comfortable arm's length. So this is it, and we'll keep you posted. So let us know what you're doing for your garden. Maybe if you're thinking about starting a garden, if you have a homestead, or you live in the suburbs and you'd like to know more about gardening. Thanks a lot for watching, and we hope to see you next time here with the Hesitant Homesteader. Take care.